Shalom. I hope you guys are enjoying your holiday week and weekend. We have been taking some time off and also planning for the future. So because of that, we didn't actually film a regular vlog for today. But we had a really good conversation on this week's Deeply Curious about personality, and we got into the discussion of agreeableness and the personality trait of agreeableness.
Yeah.
And that which led to us talking about the fight or flight response, which led to me telling a few kind of funny stories from my childhood that I think that you guys really enjoy, and so I wanted to show you that clip from the podcast. So here's some story time. Yeah, like in situations like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've never been in a situation where I'm almost going to be murdered. But like fight or flight situations.
Right.
I feel like I freeze.
Yeah, I definitely, yeah. And then like 2 seconds later, you're like, oh, I should have
killed that person.
Yeah. I think so, actually, which is kind of weird because I would guess you'd be very logical in the moment.
I've thought about this quite a bit. And I'm just thinking of this thought right now, but I think maybe the reason I freeze is more so because my fight or flight is to fight, and I freeze because I am talking myself out of it.
That's possible.
Because of my agreeableness.
That's possible.
Because I feel like my initial response would be to get myself into a bad situation where I'm like,
well, that's happened before, remember?
I know. I feel like
got us murdered.
No. I feel like my fight or flight.
He talked back to a gang member on a public transportation. We almost died.
Well, I don't care who you are. You need to respect people.
I care. I almost died.
Oh, I know. I'm not saying you. I'm saying just because he's a gang member doesn't mean he should be disrespectful.
Okay.
And he should know.
Anyways.
And it did almost turn out ugly.
It did.
But an older ex-gang member stepped in and talked him out of it. So that was good.
So thankful for that guy.
I can sometimes have a mouth.
You don't say. Yeah, but maybe that's it. You were very easy to speak in the moment, but you're not quick to react. Maybe because you're talking yourself out of doing something you'll regret, possibly.
I am definitely talking myself out of doing something I regret. Because I have thoughts of doing things.
If you're gonna speak, you gotta back it up. So either do nothing.
I mean, look at me. I would totally back it up. If you've never seen any of our videos and you're just listening to this, I'm 6'3", 230 pounds. Is that a good number for that?
I have no idea. Probably.
If you can't tell by my my manly deep voice that I could take on anybody.
Yeah.
If you're watching, don't tell them.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the case. Maybe you're trying to talk yourself out of it. So let me ask you the question. Why? Why though?
Why what?
Why are you trying to be agreeable?
About what?
In a situation when you're talking yourself out of doing something.
I don't think I'm trying to be agreeable. I'm trying to do the logical thing. My logic is taking over my fight or flight because it's not logical to punch somebody in the face who's bigger than me. Or
throw your boosted board at someone.
Right. Because my fight response is not logical. It's primal. But my logic takes over and stops me from doing things. And then later my imagination brain is but think about what if you would have done that. Yeah, that would have been awesome because then you could have had this awesome story.
Listen, that is so true because something happens and then hours later you're like, man, what if I would have and you're telling me this whole story about how you would have.
Oh man, I think about it so long. But the thing is my imagination and my daydreams are the best case scenario.
As is everyone's, yeah.
And so most likely the outcome of all of those situations, if I would have done the thing that I think would have been awesome, I would have been beat up.
Yeah, you probably would have died.
So my logic brain says, hey, you're not that 6'3", 240-pound guy that you are in your head. So don't do that.
Gotcha. So you're not being agreeable. You're just talking yourself out of it.
I'm just a realist, and I know that
you are definitely a realist.
But I mean, there also have been times in my life where I feel like I have my fight or flight has been just straight flight.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm out, like immediately. Like and I'm talking like it's so primal, like that I fly that I didn't even think to bring you with me.
No, that happened one time. I don't remember what the situation was. Do you remember? I was so mad at you because you all but pushed me in front of the moving car. You know? Yes.
No.
It was something.
It wasn't that. I mean, I definitely didn't. Like, it wasn't like throwing you under the bus to protect myself, but it was more so that like we were in some sort of situation, and I fled with not even a millisecond's like thought.
Yeah.
And then was like, oh crap, Sarah's still back there.
But you didn't stop. You just kept going.
You can't even think that. Well, I don't know if that's true because can't remember the exact situation, but I do remember that happening for sure.
I remember being so mad. I was like, who is this guy? Why am I with him? Doesn't even care about me.
One last story on a flight or flight. That's not where we started this conversation. Who cares?
Yeah.
Whenever I was a kid, it was like I was probably a teenager, and well, probably pre-teen, junior high, somewhere around there. Anyways, I was sitting in a car that was parked on a slight hill, and it was pointing with the nose up the hill. And it was myself, my sister, and my sister's best friend. And it was my sister's best friend's car, and it was like an old VW Bug, and it was a manual. And they were sitting in the front two seats, and I was in the back, in a 2-door car. Mm-hmm. Keep that in mind. 2-door car. I'm in the back. My sister, she's 5 years younger than me, so I don't know what age would have been around there, but 8 years old, let's just say. I don't know. They end up hitting the stick thing in the manual car. You know?
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about.
What?
Why I shouldn't fight people.
Oh.
So they end up hitting the what's the thing called?
I don't know.
The shifter.
Sure.
I've driven a manual like twice actually.
I've never have. The downshift thing.
Right. Yeah. I killed it both times. I've never driven a manual since. Anyways, they ended up hitting that, and it put it into neutral, and it started rolling backwards down the hill. And I'm talking within, I mean, it probably was 1 second, one Mississippi. I was out of the back seat and outside of the car with them two still in the car. I don't even know how it happened. And I was outside the car, and I was running inside to tell my dad and his best friend, who's anyways, tell the driver, the owner of the car, and my dad that the car's running down the hill. And so like I run in there, and I didn't even like look back to my sister or her friend or where the car was going. All I know is I was out, and I made it in there. And I also, this is kind of funny. I don't know why. Whenever I was a kid, I had this massive aversion to interrupting people. I maybe that's part of being high in agreeableness at some point in my life or something. But I
mean, you still hate interrupting.
I do hate interrupting very much so, and I hate interrupting like. I hate whenever I interrupt people because sometimes you just like get passionate in the moment and like start speaking. I'm like, dang it. But then also like I hate being interrupted. But this was so strong in me at that age that I run in there, and they're in the middle of this conversation. So like I'm like sprinting, and then I run right up to them, and they're talking. So I just stop. And I just look at it.
Meanwhile, your sister is dying outside.
And like I like wait, and I'm like, okay. Quick, finish your sentence. And then like they finish talking, and I remember like the car was rolling down the hill, and they're like, what?
Your poor sister.
I don't know what context I would have to tell this story ever, so I'm going to tell it now anyway because it has to do with my not wanting interrupting people.
Okay.
I'll make it really fast. So I was around that same age time. I was really into BMX, like biking, and I was on my bike, and I was like doing little jumps or whatever, and I slipped a pedal, and the pedals on my bike had like, I don't know, 1/8 inch tall, like,
those
little
pegs.
like spikes or whatever to like, grip for your feet. Well, I slipped a pedal, it came up and slammed into my shin, and it cut me. I mean, that's probably one of the only scars I still have from stuff, is like on my shin from that, and it, like, you could see the bone, and it was like bleeding, like running down my foot, my leg into my sock, and just like blood everywhere. Well, anyways, I put my bike down. I walk. My dad is nearby talking to a guy, and I like put my bike down and I like walk over to my dad to tell him, and he's in the middle of this conversation, and so I just walk up and stand there and just wait. And I'm like, in the meantime, there's blood just like rushing down my leg, but I didn't want to interrupt him. And this has nothing to do with my dad either, because my dad in no way ever was like,
he didn't care.
Like, he is a pushover type. Like, he wouldn't care if I like interrupted him.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like in fear of my dad. I just had this thing about interrupting people. And so I'm just like standing there and waiting for their conversation to end. And then the guy that my dad is talking to, he just like looks over and he like sees all the blood, and he's like, I think your son needs you. And then my dad looks over and like, I'm bleeding.
You're such a weird kid. I'm bleeding.
I don't know why. Like, in what?
I don't know what trait that is.
Like, I could have just walked up like, hey, Dad, I'm bleeding. Like, would have been fine.
Hey, look,
but,
you can see the bone in my leg.
But, oh well. That's... Just thought I'd tell you that story.
Never interrupt Cody.
Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. I have plenty more where that came from, so expect some more story time videos in the future.
Yeah.
So, also a big announcement, we actually made some Deeply Curious merch, which you can check out by going to shop.codyjensen.com. It's also linked in the description. We also have a brand new non-Deeply Curious shirt as well. It says Love Harder.
Yeah.
And so you can buy those right now. Would love for you guys to check those out. But hope you guys are enjoying your weekend, and we'll see you for a regular video on Monday.
Bye.